Hi, this is episode 32 of Bible Mechanics, and it's the second part of two parts. At least I think it'll be two parts, but I want to talk about concordances. So I won't repeat any things I said in the previous video. If you haven't heard it, both of them are part of this playlist titled Bible Mechanics, which you can identify or find on my website and go over that. So in this part, I wanted to give you a personal story of how I was first introduced to a concordance, Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. I'd never heard of such a thing. I was a new believer. This would have been around 1978. I was in my mid-20s, maybe 26, and I had been introduced to the Lord. I've talked about that elsewhere, or either written about it or talked about it on one of these videos. So I'm on a business trip to Atlanta, and I get there and I check into the hotel, and I've got a meeting the next day, but I arrived there in the mid-afternoon. And so after I got checked in, I prayed. I was learning how to pray and everything, and I wanted to be able to find a Christian bookstore. And I'd always liked books, and Christian books had been part of how I came to the Lord. A young friend witnessed to me, about the same age. But but I'd always been a reader. I got a love of reading from my mother. And so after the friend witnessed to me, I found a Christian bookstore and ventured in. That was kind of scary. Didn't know what they'd do to me when I walked in there. And but anyway, in this hotel room, I'm praying, and when I finish praying, I go through the yellow pages. Back then, they had telephone books, and there was always a telephone book in the room. And I went to the yellow pages and looked for Christian bookstore, and lo and behold, there was a Christian bookstore like in a shopping center right next door to the hotel where I was staying. I didn't even have to get in my car. I was really quite struck by that. So I'd go in there, and I don't remember the name of the bookstore. This was before the days of, the Barnes & Noble superstores and Borders and Books A Million and all those. The place where you could find the most books was in a shopping mall. And this was more of a strip mall. It wasn't a small one. It was a fairly large one. And it looked like this building, or this part of the building, had been used for something else. And it just recently been made a Christian bookstore. And I walked in there, and it was just this one big, vast room, and books on tables as far as the eye could see. I was in heaven for me. I thought, oh, wow, books everywhere. I think it might have been a discount bookstore too. These are all Christian books. They're all on discount. Oh, wow, I like books. I like to be frugal. I'm interested in Christianity, and so we're going through there. And I'm having a great time, just going from table to table, looking at these books, kind of in awe of what's there, and trying to figure out what is worth buying. And I'm still learning all that. And this, I'm standing there looking at the books. And this older man comes up to me. He worked at the store, and he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm just thrilled that you're here and thrilled to be looking around and appreciate it." And so I thought that was that, but he didn't move on. He said, "I want to show you something." And I thought to myself, what? I didn't think a sales clerk in a situation like that was up to much good, but what was I going to do? I was kind of a captive audience for him. And he pulls out a Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, and this one was a paperback, or I think I call it Kevlar or something like that, where it's a little more heavy duty than straight paper, but it's not a hardback book. But obviously it was less expensive. This was a discount bookstore. I think it was green, as I recall. And he says, "This book, you need this book. You've got to have this book." Now, when somebody starts talking that way, that's an automatic turnoff for me. I just don't, I don't feel good about a pitch like that. But he was winsome, and he was older, and I just listened. I just tolerated it. And he says, this will help you understand what's in the Bible. And back then, the only one they had was for the King James Bible, which I had tried to read and had struggled with. But this guy, he was very persuasive. And I thought, okay, I got to get this book. He sort of explained it. I didn't really get it. But I believe that was heaven. I believe that when I had been praying in my hotel room before, God was hearing that prayer. And this was a direct answer to that prayer, that guy coming up and telling me about getting that, because I have used a strong concordance ever since. Now, you can get them online now. You don't have to get it in hardback. I showed you hardback ones last time. But I have just benefited in so many different ways. And like on the subject of everyone going to heaven. And I found out there was a word in the Old Testament called Sheol. I didn't know what that word meant. You can look it up. But then I looked up at all the occurrences of it in the Bible. I think there's over 60. And I went and looked every one of them up. And I studied so many subjects that way. And, maybe I'm the old man now, and I'm pushing this on you and saying you need to make sure that you've got a strong concordance, either on paper or online, and you need to use it. So if I can do for you what that older man, God bless him, did for me, then I can feel pretty good about that. And it turns out I'll have to do part 3, because I ended up giving the whole time here to this wonderful story that I still remember with great fondness. God bless you.